All right, let's just jump right into this explainer. Today, we're going to take a word you've known, literally, since the very second you were born, and we're going to completely shatter how you define it. The word is mother. Usually, when we hear that word, our brains immediately jump straight to biology, right? We put it in this very defined, concrete box, like it's just a fixed identity, a noun. But today, we're exploring a genuinely paradigm-shifting concept that's going to totally change how you look at the underlying currency of every single interaction you have. So in this incredibly powerful piece from her blog, Aphoristic Thoughts, Kamala Manahari does something brilliant. She takes the word mother and completely redefines it. Not as a biological noun, but as an active verb. It is the act of nourishing something long before it has earned it. It's not a person at all. It's an attitude of pure, unconditional care. Manahari argues that long before it became a biological label, it was just this pure state of grace. It's basically our very first metaphor for being held by something that asks absolutely nothing in return. And this exact mindset is what fuels what she calls the invisible economy of compassion. And this unseen economy, it operates exactly like dark matter in astrophysics. You can't actually see dark matter, right? It's definitely not showing up on any standard telescope. And in the exact same way, this kind of quiet compassion doesn't show up on a quarterly earnings report or your resume. But without that hidden gravity, the whole galaxy would just spin so fast it would fly apart. These quiet, unquantifiable moments of grace are literally the dark matter of the human equation. They hold the entire social fabric of our society together without ever once demanding a return on investment. Moving into Section 1. The Ledger of Cynicism. Why we keep score. So that begs the question. If unconditional compassion is literally our first home, how on earth do we end up building these super rigid, almost corporate ledgers for every single one of our relationships? Well, Manahari maps out our psychological evolution through what she calls life's different syllabus. We start out as newborns, just soaking in unconditional care. But then, somewhere around that very first bruise of childhood, we learn to flinch. I mean, from an evolutionary survival standpoint, wasting energy without getting a return was genuinely dangerous, so we adapt. We start measuring our output. We grow up into defensive adults. Manahari puts it so beautifully. She says, an adult who once reached out to the world with both hands eventually learns to just reach out with one, keeping the other totally ready to defend against getting exploited. And the crucial takeaway here is just how exhausting the contrast is between these two ways of living. In our modern professional spaces, and even our social circles, we're constantly running on this transactional ledger. Everything has to be earned, care, respect, even rest. But over in the invisible economy, care just flows naturally. It completely bypasses all the tiny, exhausting small print of reciprocity. It's exactly like water meeting thirst. Water doesn't sit there and analyze the soil to see if it's been productive enough to actually earn the rain, right? It just provides exactly what's needed. Manahari really hits the nail on the head here regarding how the daily grind of keeping score just chips away at our natural kindness. She uses this amazing, striking metaphor. Expectation is a small goat capable of controlling an elephant. Just think about that for a second. This tiny, sharp, stubborn thing completely dictating the movement of this massive, powerful force. She's warning us that expectation basically turns our genuine gifts into cold investments. Because when you give something but you're secretly expecting reciprocity, you're actually writing up a hidden contract. You're setting invisible traps for people without even telling them. And when they inevitably fail to meet those unspoken terms, boom, resentment. Expectation just completely dilutes compassion into nothing more than a transaction. Which brings us to Section 2, the silent gym of the spirit, resistance training for empathy. Now, you might be thinking, okay, giving without expectation sounds super lovely in theory, but doesn't that just make us absolute doormats in a world full of opportunists? Actually, no. Being a deeply compassionate person doesn't magically insulate you from getting hurt. You're still going to face betrayals, for sure, but the defining difference is how you process those wounds. Manahari calls this the silent gym of the spirit. Listen, retaining your softness in a really hard world isn't some naive, passive weakness. It is a massive flex of emotional strength. It's exactly like going to a physical gym. You introduce stress to a muscle to make it stronger, right? Well, this is literally resistance training for your empathy. You're doing the heavy spiritual lifting required to experience a totally one-sided relationship and then consciously deciding, nope, I am not letting that betrayal dictate my future. All right, Section 3. The faces of compassion, water meeting thirst. When we manage to bypass all the terms and conditions of life, compassion shows up in these incredibly beautiful everyday forms. Think about the father figure, representing that fierce protection of unearned potential, holding someone to a standard they can't even see for themselves yet. Or the guru, or a great mentor, pouring everything into their team with the ultimate selfless goal of making themselves completely obsolete. Then there's the pet. This is pure devotion, 100% free of any accounting. Because let's be real here, your dog genuinely does not care if you got that big promotion at work. And finally, the friend. The person who steps up to remind you exactly who you are when your own reflection just goes totally quiet. They're extending you a line of credit from the invisible economy when your own personal accounts are completely empty. These are all real active ways that we mother each other. This leads us to Section 4, Mothering Your Own Spirit, the Ultimate Blind Spot. Now, we really have to turn the mirror around, and honestly, this question hits pretty hard. Why do we so easily extend, just unconditional grace to a friend who messes up or patiently nurture a pet, but then we run our own internal lives like these ruthless, cutthroat accounting firms? We literally demand a return on every single ounce of our own energy. We fall right into that modern trap of self-optimization, treating ourselves like corporate assets that need to be aggressively managed, instead of just human beings that need to be nurtured. If we aren't performing at our peak, we punish ourselves. But if the core definition of mothering is nourishing something before it has earned it, don't we have a fundamental obligation to assume that exact role for ourselves? The stakes on this are absolutely crucial. Manohari points out this beautiful, almost mechanical reality of the human spirit. If you withhold compassion, whether you're withholding it from others or from yourself, you literally shrink your soul. It's that simple. But conversely, choosing to step into that silent gym of the spirit, giving that compassion freely, it physically expands your entire bandwidth for joy and connection. Compassion is arguably the only transaction in existence where the currency actually multiplies just by being spent. It uplifts absolutely everyone and diminishes no one. So, as you start to shift your paradigm, as you hopefully start closing out those fictional ledgers, keep this undeniable truth in mind. Compassion is the only legacy that does not decay. Think about it. All those professional scorecards, the performance metrics, the accumulated favors you've tallied up, all that stuff is eventually going to fade away. It appreciates for a bit, and then, poof, it vanishes. But this invisible economy, it's literally the only currency that survives the accounting of the world. It is genuinely, completely immune to the inflation of time. To wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with a final thought to chew on as you step back into the noise of your daily life. If mothering is this active, constant choice to nourish something long before it has earned it, what is quietly waiting for you to mother it today? Maybe it's a tiny, fledgling idea you've just been way too critical to explore. Maybe it's a total stranger navigating a really difficult moment. Or maybe, just maybe, it's a bruised, exhausted part of your own life that you've been holding to an absolutely impossible standard. The water is there. The only question is, are you ready to close the ledger and simply let the water meet the thirst today?